today we released some information about a case that the Violent Crimes Unit, that was at the time known as the Homicide Unit, began working in 1991. In 1991, a young woman was violently sexually assaulted in Tuscaloosa in the month of August. She was a university student at the time. This did not occur on campus. It occurred at a apartment complex away from campus. The investigation at that time was done very well and very thorough, and no suspects were ever developed. The evidence in that case was maintained by the Sheriff's Office or the Violent Crimes Unit the entire time. In 2001, another woman was violently sexually assaulted within Tuscaloosa County. This occurred at a home. The victim in that case was a realtor who had met to show a home to a subject who assaulted her. The modus operandi in that case was completely different. In the 1991 case, the subject approached a woman from the dark, pressed a knife against her neck, forced her into a vehicle, drove her vehicle to another location, sexually assaulted her for an extended period of time before driving to some area near where he picked her up or kidnapped her and abandoning the vehicle. In the 2001 case, again, it met a realtor, came into the house. Once he determined that victim was alone, he then produced a weapon and sexually assaulted her. The physical descriptions in both of those cases were not very similar. In 2004, the Violent Crimes Unit sent the original sexual assault kit from the case in 2001 back to the Department of Forensic Sciences for testing. In 1991, the DNA capability was not there, and later in 2004 it had gone. The DNA capability had gotten better, so we sent those kits back. They were able to obtain suspects' DNA from 91. They entered that into a database. The CODIS, it hit immediately on a sexual assault in Colorado Springs, Colorado, that had occurred in that same year, 2004. In that case, a subject that fit the physical description of the realtor case here in 2001 and the same MO went to her house. She had something for sale in the paper. And once he determined that she was home alone, he attempted to sexually assault her with a weapon. Interestingly enough, in that case, she fought back. Good for her. Bloodied his nose, and the DNA actually came back from his blood. He was not able to complete his crime there. When that happened, when we got the hit back from the Colorado case, it became immediately apparent to investigators in the unit that had still been working that case from 2001 that was similar. And so we did not have DNA linking 91 and 2001, but we had DNA linking 2001 and 2004 in Colorado, and the MO from Colorado was identical to 2004. As you can imagine, it was extremely frustrating at that time because, again, no suspect was ever developed. The investigators that worked on that, one of them being Captain Kip Hart at the city, who followed this case for many years up until this year, still met with me and the victims, worked it extensively. And by extensively, investigators from Colorado came to Tuscaloosa. Investigators from Tuscaloosa went to multiple areas in the country. We exchanged information with other task forces that were working serial rapists. This DNA was looked at multiple times. The evidence was done. Multiple press releases were made. The amount of effort and work by multiple investigators in the Violent Crimes Unit over the last 30 years is incredible on this case. I can't speak more for it there. I started looking into this case as a cold case when I was assigned to the unit, and we got funding, and we sent it to Parabon Labs, the original 1991 DNA for genetic genealogy testing. They were able to provide us with a suspect. Pursuant to that investigation, and later we recovered DNA, that suspect is now deceased. He's now deceased. we were able to get DNA from his biological relatives and send that to forensic sciences, and they were able to confirm through DNA that he was the suspect, the perpetrator in that. And so that's what we're here to release today. His name was Elliot Higgins, and he was most recently from Jimenez Springs, New Mexico, which is in the Albuquerque area. Earlier in his life, he was from Ohio, the Cleveland area, and he's had a criminal record from those times of sexual assaults on minors. His family and his father was rather famous in his community for being a collegiate musician, and he followed in his father's footsteps, and he became an expert, a master, and a teacher of the French horn. He was at different times in his life conductor of the Albuquerque Philharmonic Orchestra. He was a manager of the Santa Barbara Symphony in California, and he was a manager of the Fort Wayne, Indiana Philharmonic at different times of his life. His family had a camp in the mountains of New Mexico, and I think they still do to this day, a youth camp that they worked at and spent most of their time at. And they have a special festival there called the Hummingbird Music Festival that Elliot Higgins himself founded for music students that would come and do music there. As part of this, and I assume because of his arrest in the 70s as a young man, he never actually, to my knowledge, was able to find where he actually was employed by any university or college. But he, in 1976, he helped found a competition called the American or the International Horn Competition. At different times throughout the years, that name has changed from International Horn Competition to American Horn Competition. This competition was held in different years, sometimes every other year, sometimes every fourth or fifth year, at a college throughout America. And in 1991 and 2001, it was held here at the University of Alabama. And it was held during the week that both of these sexual assaults occurred. I've obtained records from the horn competition that has confirmed that he was in town those 2 weeks. And again, as I said, the physical descriptions, the modus operandi, the fact that he was in town, both victims have looked at pictures of this subject and confirmed that they believe it was him. And now the DNA has proven with a probability greater than 99.999% that he was the suspect in those assaults. Since we determined all this information, for the last several months, we have contacted every police department in a jurisdiction that we knew that he worked at or that this competition was held. And the entire case file has been shared with them so that they can look for unsolved sexual assaults in their areas. And also, we've had extensive help from law enforcement in Albuquerque and other parts of the country, contacting his family and doing follow-up investigations on him. And they are also looking for any type of similar unsolved sexual assaults as well. The reason that we're releasing this information today is that if there's any other victims out there, we want to try to locate them if they wish, because we want to provide some type of closure to them and let them know that we never gave up on this case, and that it was always considered important to us. And and if there's any victims from anywhere in America, we hope that they would contact their local jurisdictions, and they can work the case or reach back out to me, and we can share all of this information with them. On another note, I want this to be a message to anyone who wants to assault women in our community, that we don't give up on these cases, and no matter what happens, we're going to keep working them until we identify who you are. This case was 30 years old, and yet we still are working that case as if it had happened yesterday, and new technology is here with us now, and we're looking at other cases that we may be able to apply this to, and we will continue to do that. And I just want to say again, I can't speak enough to how many different investigators over the years have worked on this case. And we have lots of cold cases that the same treatment is being given to. This is just one of them where the new technology came forward. And like I said, we're evaluating other cases now, and we hope to utilize this in other cases if it's appropriate. So.